Lyddie, Chapter 14, Ills and Petition, Part 1. By Saturday afternoon, she was back in her own room, and by Sunday the pain had dulled. Dr. Craven had cut her hair away from the wound and bound her head in a proper bandage, but she took it off. She was going back to work the next day, bald spot and all. She'd never been vain, never had anything to be vain about, and to tell the truth, no need to start fussing over her looks now. At first, Amelia and Mrs. Bedloe objected to her returning to work so soon, but they quickly gave up. Lyddie would go to work no matter what. "If you can't do the work," Mr. Marston had said. Besides, Diana came by Sunday evening and said she was looking quite fit again. Diane should know, shouldn't she? She went to bed early, but she couldn't sleep. Her head seemed to throb more than she was lying down. She thought about her family. Suppose that cussed shuttle had killed her or put her eye out. What would they do? And Diana, what was Lyddie to think? She hadn't dared ask about Dr. Craven. Diana hadn't explained why she sent for him instead of Dr. Morris, who usually cared for the girls at number 5. Dr. Craven seemed as good a doctor as any better. He didn't leave a bill. The curfew bell rang, and Amelia came to bed. Betsy did too, though she kept her candle burning, studying into the night as she often did. At last she blew out the light and slid down under the quilts. Then it began, that awful tearing sound that Lyddie would come to dread, with every knotted inch of nerves, though, her whole silently screeching body, and finally it stopped. "Betsy, I do wish you'd see Dr. Morrison about that cough." Amelia's voice came from the next bed. I'm a big girl, Amelia. Don't nag." I'm not nagging. If you weren't so stubborn." "What would he tell me, Amelia? To rest? How can I do that? I've only got a few more months to go if I stop now." "I'm going to stop." "What?" There was a sign in the darkness. "I'm leaving. I'm going home." "Home? I've come to hate factory life. Oh, Betsy, I hate what it's doing to me. I don't even know myself anymore. This corporation is turning me into a sour old spinster." "It's just the winter." Betsy's voice was kinder than usual. "It's hard to stay cheerful in the dark. Come spring, you'll be our resident saint once more." Amelia ignored the tease. "I've been through winter before," she said. "It's not the season." She sighed again, more deeply than before. "I'm tired, Betsy. I can't keep up the pace." "Who can? Except our Amazonian Lyddie." Betsy's laugh turned abruptly into a cough that shook the whole bed. Lyddie scrunched up tightly into herself and tried to block out the sound, and the rusty saw hacking through her own chest. Had Betsy been coughing like this for long? And why hadn't she heard it before? Surely there must be some syrup or tonic, even opium. "You must see the doctor about the cough," Amelia said. "Promise me you will." "I'll make a pact with you, Amelia. I'll see the doctor if you promise to stay until summer. I can't think of number 5 without you." She stopped to cough, then cleared her throat and said in a still husky voice, "How could I manage? You're the plague of my life, my guardian angel." There was a funny kind of closeness between her roommates after that night, but even so, Amelia went home the last week of January to visit and didn't come back. She wrote that her father had found her a teaching post in the next village. "Forgive me, Betsy," she wrote, "and do, please, I beg you, go see a doctor." With the bed to herself, Lyddie was less distressed by Betsy's coughing, and though Betsy never quite got around to seeing Dr. Morse, she was better. Lyddie told herself, surely the cough was less racking than it had been, and Lyddie missed Amelia. She would have imagined that she'd feel relief to have her gone, but Betsy was right. They both needed her in an odd sort of way, their nettlesome guardian angel. Her cut was quite healed. Her hair grew out and covered the scar, and she was working as well as hard as ever. Her January pay came to $11.20, exclusive of board. Everything was going well for her when Mr. Marston stopped her one evening as she was about to leave. The machines were quiet, so she could not pretend deafness. "You're feeling fine again? No problem with the head?" She nodded and made it as if to go. "You have to take care of yourself. You're my best girl, you know." He put his hand on her sleeve. She looked down at it, and he slipped it off. Her face reddened slightly. and his little round mouth worked a bit on the next sentence. "We're getting new operators in tomorrow. Not nearly so clever as you, but promising. And if I could put one at your care, let her work as a spare hand on one of your machines." Oh, hang it all. How could she say so? No. How could she explain that she must not be slowed down? She couldn't have some dummy monkeying with her looms. "I've got to make my pieces," she muttered. "Yes," he said, "of course you do. It would only be for a day or so. I wouldn't let anyone hinder you." He smiled with his mouth and not his eyes. "You're my prize girl here. I'm not your girl. I'm not nobody's girl, but my own." So it's settled," he said, reaching out as though to pat her again. But Lyddie quickly shifted her arm to escape the touch. The new girl, Bridget, was from the Acre, an Irish Papist through and through, wearing layers of strange capes and smelling even worse than Lyddie herself. Lyddie scented more than poverty and winter sweat. She whiffed it disaster. The girl's only asset was a better command of proper New England speech than most of her lot. Not that she spoke often. She seemed deafened by the machines and too crowded to ask questions even when she needed to. As for tying knots, a basic weaver knot, the girl simply couldn't do them. Lyddie demonstrated, her powdered fingers pinching, looping, slipping, pulling, all in one fluid motion. That magically produced a healed, warped thread with no hint of a lump to betray the break. You don't even watch," the girl cried out in alarm, and of course Lydia didn't. She had no need to. Her fingers could have tied that knot in a privy at midnight and would have held. It would have been invisible as well. "Here," she said, barely clinging to patience. "I'll do it, more slowly." She slapped off all 4 machines, and with her scissors she cut 2 threads from a bobbin, and taking the girl to the window where the light was best, she wasted at least 5 precious minutes tying and retying the useless knot until finally the girl was able, however clumsily, to tie a lumpy knot herself. Lydia jerked a nod. "It will get better with practice," she said gruffly, anxious to get the stilled looms roaring once more. Threading the shuttle was, if anything, worse. Lyddie popped the full bobbin into the shuttle and then, as always, put her mouth to the hole and sucked the thread through, pulled it to length, wrapped it quickly on a hook of the temple, dropped the shuttle into the race, and restarted the loom. The next time the quill had to be replaced, she had Bridget thread it, and as she watched the girl put her mouth over the hole and sucked out the thread, the words "kiss of death" came to mind. She had always thought the words a joke among the weavers, but here was this strange-smelling foreigner sucking Lyddie's shuttle, leaving her spittle all over the thread hole. Lyddie wiped the point quickly on her apron before she banged the shuttle again, the far end of the race. "We don't want any flying shuttles," she yelled, her face nearly as crimson as the Irish girl's. And by the end of the first day, the girl was far from ready to operate her own machines, but Lyddie had run out of patience. She told Mr. Marston to assign the girl a loom next to her own. "I'll watch out for her and tend my own machines as well." Before the noon break of the next day, a flying shuttle had grazed the girl's shoulder, and she had let the shuttle run out of weft, ruining several inches of cloth. When a warp thread snapped, instead of instantly hitting the lever to stall the loom, she threw her apron over her head, and she burst into tears. "Shut off your loom," Lyddie yelled over to her. "You can tie the knot this time. You should know how by now, eh?" The girl burst into tears again, and before Lydia could decide what to do with her, Diana was there, slapping off the loom. Burning with shame, Lyddie glanced over as Diane, without a quiver of impatience, helped the girl retrieve the broken ends and tie a weaver's knot. When finally Diane stood back and told the girl to pull the lever into place, Lyddie touched Diane's shoulder. "Sorry," she mouthed. Diana nodded and went back to work, and at the last bell, Lyddie found herself going down the stairs beside Diana. "She's going to do fine, your Bridget," Diana said. "Oh, I don't know," Lyddie said, wondering how Diana knew the girl's name, and then annoyed that the foreigner should be hers. Surely Lyddie had never wanted her. She seemed all thumbs and tears. They'd be such fools, those Irish. Diana gave a wry smile. "We're all allowed to be fools the first week or two, aren't we?" Lyddie blushed furiously. "I never thanked you proper for taking care of me before," she said. "And your doctor, he never sent a bill. Mind you, I'm not complaining, but—" Diana didn't comment on the doctor. Your head seems to have quite recovered. How do you feel? No pain, I hope?" "Oh, I'm all right," Lyddie said. "Just ornery as an old sow." "Ornery enough to add your name to the petition?" Diane whispered. She was teasing her. Lyddie was sure of it. I don't reckon I aim to be ever get that ornery, Lyddie said. And that is the end of part 1 of chapter 14, Ills and Petition.